A fourth straight win for Michael Carrick since taking over as interim boss of Manchester United. Now 3 points behind Manchester City in second after a 2-0 win against 10-man Tottenham Hotspur at Old Trafford. Mark Donaldson alongside Janusz Mihalik. I don't want this to turn into a Manchester United love-in. However, I didn't see a fault with them today. Yeah, I thought they were outstanding. I thought their game management was excellent. And I thought the tempo was brilliant. That's a complete performance for me today.
Yeah,
What did you think?
I think they deserve the loving. I mean, look how much fun we have had at their expense for most of the season. I mean, it's incredible. The turnaround is absolutely incredible to be where they are right now. It just goes to show what confidence does. Is the most important thing, because obviously at this level you have to have quality, but confidence changes everything. And why is that? It's simplicity. It's Michael Carrick who has put the team above himself. That's the difference, because Amorim couldn't figure this out. He continues to look extremely bad because he was so inflexible. I mean, there's not much change here. And as I've said, we've talked about it. I remember just before Amorim went, there are things that were starting to happen a little bit in terms of individual players. But obviously, he would have stuck to his guns. He would have played the system that this team for decades is not used to it. And Michael Carrick is not probably the best coach in the world, but he's just recognized what he remembered as a player, implemented that. The players are liking it, and they're paying him back.
Well said, well said. And to put that into context, the simplicity aspect of Michael Carrick, because you could argue, was it broken? Well, it was jigsaw pieces in the wrong places. And you put a jigsaw together with every piece in the right place and things work. That's his fourth Premier League game in charge. It's his second unchanged starting 11. Amorim only did that once in 47 games. You've got Cunha sometimes playing as the striker. You've got Bruno sometimes playing as the striker. You've got Cunha, Bruno, and Mbeumo, as the striker. You've got flexibility. You've got movement. I think the most damning thing, or one of the most damning things you could say about Amorim's time in charge, is that one of United's best players since Carrick took over is someone he didn't even fancy, Kobbie Mainoo.
Yeah, but there's even more to that, right? I mean, the system is the obvious one. And for the life of me, I will not understand why Amorim couldn't get that, going. Good luck to him to find a system, or a club that will play exactly the way he wants and will always get him the players that he wants. Because otherwise, you figure Amorim can't manage in this game. But, let's forget about him, because Michael Carrick's doing a good job. Yes, Mainoo is important, but also, I mean, you look at the players like Lisandro Martinez, who came in as if he didn't miss a beat. I mean, he's been absolutely outstanding. Would Amorim put Maguire in there? I mean, look how much fun we've had at his expense. And he's been steady Eddie, obviously incredible experience, a player that knows the club inside out right now. The steady Eddie, as we say. Luke Shaw's got to be loving life, right? I mean, can he play as a wing back? Sure, but he much prefer to play a fullback and kind of join the attack a little bit late. I feel like I have to apologize to Dalot, because I mean he's changed. So if you add Mainoo, look, you have a great base in the midfield right now, especially. As I mentioned, Casemiro is very good when the game goes United way. I think, obviously his age a little bit, you find out when United are under extreme pressure or the game is wide open. That's to be understood, right? But between him and Mainoo, they've just allowed to Bruno Fernandes to play where we all knew he should have been playing, right? Which is higher up the pitch, because that's his game. And as you've mentioned, rightly so, because if you watch this game today, the interchangeability of Mbeumo, Matheus Cunha, and Fernandes was incredible. I mean, we've seen Fernandes at number 9. I remember in the first half, there was a couple moments where he was kind of behind Luke Shaw, really covering for everybody. So this is what you get from a player like Bruno Fernandes, right? Because when he was playing deeper, we all complain about going forward, and people couldn't understand, oh, he's a great player, he can do that. I'll tell you from experience, if you play in your preferred position, you always do extra to come back, because you're so happy that you can do what you do best, meaning that you're a little bit higher, you're always attacking. That coming back, I don't want to say it's a pleasure, but it's that little bit of extra that you give. But when you start so much deeper and you have to work twice as hard to even get the opportunities going forward. Then when the ball turns over, it's just so much harder to get back into that defensive position. So look, Michael Carrick, I just think he said, I mean, I'm not going to change what I know about football. I may not be the best manager, tactical manager in the world. I just keep it simple, and it's working. Same player, right, that couldn't beat a pop team in the first half of the season. Look what they're doing right now.
He's given them the joy of football back. They all want the ball. I mean, I know it took me a bit of time to get Mbumo's name out a couple of minutes ago, but whether it's Mbumo or Bruno or Diallo, or whether it's Cunha or Menu or Casemiro or the two fullbacks, Martinez and Maguire just do their own business. I mean, Brian Mbumo, 10 goals, I think it is now for him in all competitions this season, 3 attempts. We talk, you can explain this to us, Giannis. You played the game at a high level. When you have that flexibility, if you're Romero, and we'll get on to him, and if you're Van de Ven, and you don't really have a striker to mark, but you've got these kind of front 4 players that are flexible and move. How difficult is that for the opposition when you don't have right, if we stand in this place, we know we'll be marking this player?
Well, it's difficult, and we'll get into it, especially against a team like Spurs, that right now you have, I mean, you have zero continuity. I mean, every game there's, because of injuries and everything else. Look at that, that back line over there, Gray playing it, even though he can. So communication is very, very important. The automatic things that come without saying are not there, because every game you have a different back line. And even today in the game, aside from Romero getting red carded again, you have Udogi that's injured, that got injured as well, and that adds on to it everything else. So it's very, very difficult. In some way, as I've said, as much as I liked it, I like the fact that they have that balance, because when Šeško came in, I mean, that's your typical number 9. I almost want to say that things got better, and not just because they got the second goal alone, but that also adds that to that simplicity, right? Where you don't have to spend as much energy interchanging, changing position, communicating. I'm talking about Manchester United, and Šeško, as we know, as of late started scoring goals. So here you have false 9 if Šeško's not playing, and now Šeško that's coming into form, that gives you an option to play differently and to have these players running off of him, which is always good for players playing underneath.
You also have Casemiro, who's rolling back the years right now, but he was rolling his sock down to check his ankle in the 29th minute. Why does Christian Romero do this? Why can't he learn? A red card for the Argentine defender. It's his second of the Premier League season. It means he's facing a 4-game ban. It's his 4th all told in the Premier League, and it's his 6th in all competitions for Spurs. He's a liability. Discuss.
Absolutely. Look, he's a great player that doesn't have a filter, and that's a dangerous combination, right? Because it's hard to go all in on him, right? With studs up on my part, because you look at this. I mean, 3 goals recently, had an assist as well, so he does his part, right? But he's a defender. He's also a captain, and that was irresponsible, because he is an irresponsible player. He's a captain, and he has to understand that. I mean, here we are in a situation that they're in, that half the squad is injured. Romero may have put another or final nail in the coffin of Thomas Frank. I mean, he's got to understand that. I mean, all that stuff on social media that was good, and people were talking about his character, his leadership ability. No, it's not off the pitch. I mean, off the pitch is important in the dressing room, right? Whatever he does and say to players, which I'm assuming he's very good at that, and people respect him. But when you come on the pitch and this is your 6th red card, 3rd, or 2nd this season already, and on a team that's already so short on numbers, that's just absolutely criminal to lose him for 3 matches. So again, this is the sort of combination where, it's hard to say what do you do with it, because, if I was a manager, to me, he's a liability. If I'm building a team and I know that not only injuries, but, he does get injured from time to time. I mean, he's not a player that plays the entire season. It makes you wonder, is it worth it? Because that, to me, today was absolutely criminal. Look where they are on the table. I mean, this is a team that right now, I mean, next season, they won't be playing in Europe. Maybe Conference League, going from a Champions League, right, to Conference League, because English teams, half the league gets in, right? So that's a small possibility. But when it comes to a captain, I mean, I don't even have words because I almost
Yeah.
expect that from Romero, which is a bad thing to say.
It is, and his footballing ability is fantastic. It's the baggage that he comes with. A 4-game ban now for Spurs, and Udogie hurt as well. That's the last thing that they need to be missing more players. So they're 0-0 at this stage. I actually thought Man United were far better before the sending off than Spurs. And it took maybe 3 or 4 minutes to kind of adjust for Manchester United to get back in the same rhythm because the crowd went a little bit flat. The intensity wasn't quite the same. Spurs retreated, on came Dragushin, off went Odegaard. But then United scored the opening goal in 38 minutes. It was a lovely goal. It's a set piece. It's Bruno playing it into Menu. It's a flick to an unmarked Brian Mbeumo. Now, here's the other thing. Super finish from Mbeumo for 1-0. If Spurs have got 11 players on the park, there might be a good chance that one of those players is covering Mbeumo at the edge of the box. So, super goal. But again, from a Spurs perspective, you can't leave someone as dangerous as Mbeumo at the edge of the box.
No, obviously rehearsed, and it's one of those things that again, maybe that communication, maybe the combination of players that was on the pitch. That I mean, if you Thomas Frank here in this situation, you don't have a team, right? I mean, you don't. You just have a collection of players that you can never work with on anything meaningful because from minute to minute, forget from day to day, you have a player out. So it's so difficult to sort of get your points across. It's a set piece as we know it, so you're supposed to have time to get yourself organized as well. I think that's what happens when you have a surprise like this, right? I mean, it's one of those corners that let's be honest here, right? This type of thing works 1 out of 10 times. It's not an easy one, and in this particular situation, it worked. But I'll tell you, I mean, the only thing you could say about United, I suppose, that they didn't truly create that many clear-cut chances, right? But they were dominant, and it's the sort of game that you take because we all know they can score goals. We've seen that against Arsenal. We've seen that against Fulham. We've seen that against Manchester City, right? They've conceded some of the goals. So you look at that and say to yourself, okay, maybe it wasn't our best performance, but clean sheet at Old Trafford, that hasn't been a fortress for a long, long time right now. And we took advantage the moment basically Spurs had their player sent off, right? Mm-hmm. So that sets you up nicely. And again, if you're gonna find something and complain, then you say to yourself, well, maybe, just maybe, United should have closed this game a little bit earlier. But I think this was a game where Manchester United were, in my opinion, in absolute control.
Yeah, they were. And I think you've just said that. You could talk about them not getting it the second goal earlier than they did, but you never felt they were in trouble. It was like big brother, little brother, big sister, little sister in that second half. The bigger sibling always just had them at arm's length. And it looked like it was going to be a case of when. And if it wasn't going to be, then 1-0 was going to be pretty comfortable. And it did become a case of when they got the second goal. And it was the 81st minute. Another really nice goal. It's played between several of the players. Kobe Mainoo's involved in there. Diogo Dalot is involved in there. Brian Mbeumo gives it back to Dalot. In it goes. Šeško goes for it. He's on as a sub for Cunha in the 75th minute. Doesn't get a touch. It's a really, really nice finish from Bruno because he doesn't have much time to think about it. So he decides, well, I've got to take this first time. He kind of, even though he doesn't hit it properly with his boot, it's probably more of a shin, but he knows exactly what he's doing to guide it back past Vicario where it came from. That's a super goal from Bruno.
It's a perfect goal. This is exactly how they teach you when you're young, right? In terms of how to attack a ball from a wonderful cross. And again, once again, I'm talking about Dalot. I'm hot and cold on from time to time, but wonderful delivery. But Benjamin Šeško, probably if he puts his head on it, that's a goal in itself, right? And when you have an early cross like that, or any cross really for that matter, you always want to have a run towards the near post. And Benjamin Šeško was, central, but obviously if that was going near post, he's probably get there. And of course, you always want somebody to close it on the far post. And yes, you could say that there's a degree of luck in terms of how he finished, but Bruno Fernandes doesn't do anything by luck. He knew that he couldn't swing at that ball, so he just kind of, it's one of those a little bit on a half volley where you say to yourself, I'll just put my body into it because he couldn't do anything else, and he still puts it away. And that's just Bruno Fernandes, right? I mean, we've seen him score every which way possible. So we're not surprised. I mean, if this is, I don't know, Luke Shaw may be finishing, then we can say, "Oh, that's lucky." When I look at Bruno Fernandes and how he finished that to me is not luck. The fact how he approached that ball tells me that he knew exactly what he was doing. And the fact that he scored with a shin, or so what, right? So again, when you look at that, the execution, starting with the cross, the two runs by Benjamin Šeško, perfect run, just barely misses it, and then closing on the far post by Bruno Fernandes. This is exactly how I remember learning it when I was a young kid.
Mm-hmm. Don't know if I had the same outcome or it looked as good as Bruno did when you were in that position, if you found the bottom corner. But I'm sure we can find some old VHS videotapes and find out if you did, in fact, make the same contact as Bruno did. 2-0 against Man City, 3-2 against Arsenal away from home, 3-2 against Fulham. The 3-2 games are very different because they were chaotic games that involved either late winners or just chaos, whereas today was well managed. I said it right at the start of the game management. So let's take a look at the top six and let's see what Manchester United fans can start to think about. West Ham away is next up, followed by Everton away and Crystal Palace at home. I know there's only 3 points between them and Manchester City, but is third place still the realistic aim for Manchester United? Or, given how Carrick has started, do they think about Manchester City as their target?
No, I think, as always, maybe a boring answer, but for Manchester United, I think that's the only answer you have is one game at a time, right? I mean, nobody thought that this turnaround, which, by the way, it to me is incredible, right? Nobody has seen it coming, and to do it in such a short time, to go where they've been, to see where they are right now, and the level of football they're playing, right? Because as you've mentioned, I mean, we've seen everything. We've seen, the first game of Michael Carrick, right, against Man City, and that aggression, the pressing. I mean, just the way they play and how easily they've beaten their city rivals, right? Then to go to Arsenal, who are going to win the league, and win it late, right, shows a character. And then you have Fulham, another late winner, even later, right? Because I think it was 94th minute, back and forth. So again, scoring goals and showing the character, the fight until the end, the belief in themselves, the belief that was missing throughout the whole season. I mean, once United went down, you sort of knew, right, a few months ago, that this is over. I mean, they could have lost to anybody, and they have. And then today you have sort of one of those games that's a little bit easier, in control. They didn't have to stretch themselves to absolute max to get a result against, a Spurs team, right? So I think at this moment, it's 4 games, 4 wins for Michael Carrick, and I think he's seen the whole gamut of what this team is capable of. So going forward, I think you just win every game, because at this stage, I mean, look, they've finished in Champions League. If it's 4th or 3rd or 2nd, who cares really, right? Unless there's a possibility somewhere in there to challenge Arsenal, all the rest doesn't matter. All that matters is this is a true preparation for next season, meaning now everybody at the club is a little bit happier. Now all the owners may all of a sudden start thinking, yes, maybe we can, or maybe we should spend money in critical areas, where before it's like, well, how are we going to spend the money? We're not going to make it to the Champions League. We're not, winning the cups and all of that. We have to be careful. All of that is changing. And the only job that Manchester United have is continue, this superb, confident team in terms of continue to build our foundation for next season, which likely at this moment looks like perhaps maybe a challenge for a Premier League and Champions League once again. So I think it's good times, one game at a time, finish top 4. If it's 3rd, 2nd, bonus, but it really doesn't change all that much.
What about the team they beat today, Tottenham Hotspur? Archie Gray's 42nd minute goal at Selhurst Park against Crystal Palace on the 26th of December was the only goal of that game. It was also the last time Spurs won in the Premier League. We're now in February. They're 14th. If West Ham get a win, they go on to 23, and they're only 6 points behind Spurs. What happens? What needs to happen here?
Listen, I'm looking next games. Ready? Newcastle, Arsenal, Fulham, Palace, Liverpool. They could lose all of them. I mean,
They
they
could
haven't
have.
won in how many, 7 now? I mean,
Yeah.
even if you get a one win somewhere in there, a draw, and then you lose a 2 or 3. I mean, it's dire time. Look, you know, you know, the way they are right now with all the injuries, now the suspension for 3 games of your captain, right? I mean, you could
4 games, Janusz. 4, not
oh
3.
yeah, I'm sorry, because
Oh,
that's
yeah, yeah, all right.
right. So you could have signed 10 players in the transfer window. And what does that mean? I mean, this is yet another season where everybody's injured. That's, before anything happens, when the season's up, they've got to look at this, because we all know, I know some of it is going to happen, but I remember Liverpool when they had injuries, they had a horrible season, Arsenal and everybody else, right? It is incredible that this is happening every season. It happened under Ange. It's happening right now, where half the team is unavailable and is going to continue to be unavailable, right? It's come to a point where you get, the young Souza, 19-year-old, coming in after not playing, for 2 months, and he's going out there on the pitch. So, look, I don't know what's happening here. As I've said, Romero really didn't help his manager after all that talk about leadership and this, that, or the other. I mean, he's really, if I'm Thomas Frank, if you're Christian Romero, how do you look him in the eye right now with everything that's happening after a red card like this, where there's zero question? And as we were listening to our commentary, I mean, he knew exactly what he was doing. I'm convinced of that too. This wasn't something that he knew what he was doing. He it's that extra something that he's got. That's something that, I mean, there's no filter in him, right? He can't help himself. That's the way it is. You take the good with the bad, because there is a lot of good. And I look at these games coming up, and forget Thomas Frank. If he's here, great. If he's not, I don't think anything changes for the rest of the season for Spurs. I mean, this is just a collection of players, nowhere near a team. Can't win at home, can't win away, can't keep the players fit, and can't keep the players on the pitch, including their captain.
So Romero suspended, obviously an injury to Udogie, Madison, Kudus, Bentancur, Richarlison, Kulusevski, Davies, Berival, Porro, Spence, and Danso. A lot of injuries, but the players that they had today, a lot of these players, I mean, they've just spent 35 million on Conor Gallagher. A lot of these players walk into the first team of many of the Premier League sides, but collectively, they're not there right now. Finally, where does the problem lie with Spurs?
Well, aside from everything I said, I'll shortly repeat myself. Is how a manager, Thomas Frank or anybody else, supposed to work and prepare week in and week out with this? I mean, how? You tell me. I mean, it's nearly impossible. There's always an exception. There are teams out there that use rotation, but it's a well thought out rotation, right? It's a rotation knowing that if maybe it doesn't work out, you still have the players available on the bench and they can come in and change the game. I mean, here there's so many key players. I mean, if you're Thomas Frank, I mean, it takes you probably, if you have a 4 or 5 week, right, where you can prepare, it takes you 2 days probably to figure out who you're going to have available. I mean, how do you put a training plan or game plan for the next match when everybody falls out for one reason or another? I think it's difficult, especially at a level of Premier League, because it's unforgiven, as we know. So, you're not going to get lucky. You may get lucky once, but it's not going to happen once, twice, or 3 times. Look, I can't tell you. It's impossible. I promise you, Thomas Frank can't tell you, because you're looking at a team that's, I mean, you get a phone book and you pull out some players, and, at the end of the week, you got to play a game. It's very difficult. There's no answer to that. And it's obvious that Thomas Frank doesn't have it. And I'm not necessarily sure that I blame him on him now, totally.
And I want to end this by talking one question about Manchester United to you. Do you give them permission, their supporters, based on the start that Michael Carrick has made, to get carried away a little bit?
Define carrying it away. I mean,
you define it for me. You tell me.
There's nothing.
Can they start to believe? Can they get carried away a little bit?
No. I still don't think that anybody's taking this away. I mean, they're not gonna win the league all of a sudden. It's just impossible, right? So carried away.
Got hope though.
Hope for what? Just finish Champions League. It's not
as bad as it's been.
Well, yeah, but I think we've explained that, right? So one game at a time, nothing changes. You're not going to get carried away. You know that the season in terms of
That's players, though. I'm talking fans, Janis. Us fans just cling for any little bit of hope. They've got hope now. The
right,
last 4 games.
and their hope is to finish top four, which I think they're good. You know, I wouldn't define that as getting carried away.
Well,
It's reality right now because there's nothing else that they can do, right? As far as I'm concerned, there's no trophies to be won, really. I don't know. It's. I think they're just happy to be at a place that they never thought they would be in such a short time.
That's fair. That's fair. They're out the cup, but they've got West Ham next. The old Man United would probably have dropped 3 points after looking as good as they did today. But this is the new Manchester United under Michael Carrick. Small sample size to begin with, but you couldn't ask for any better that he's done so far. 4 wins out of 4. And for me, a complete performance today. Bye for now.